We all know the story of the Bethlehem journey that happened at Christmas. But did you know there was another Bethlehem journey many years before that, which also ended with a baby being born? Another special baby. In this story, the baby was called Obed, and Obed was the father of Jesse, and Jesse was the father of David, who was in the family tree of that other famous baby, Jesus. Obed's mum and dad were called Ruth and Boaz. But we are getting ahead of ourselves, as we have to tell the story of that other Bethlehem journey first. This story has no angels, no stars, no shepherds or sheep, no kings or camels. But there is a young lady, and there is an older lady. And there probably was a donkey. So the older lady was called Naomi, and the girl was called Ruth. And they were travelling to Bethlehem, because it was where Naomi had come from, just like Joseph did in the Christmas story. But Naomi was sad. She had left for Bethlehem many years before because there had been a famine. Now, I am sure that you know what that means. There was no food for her, her husband, and her 2 sons. While she was away from Bethlehem, her husband had sadly died. Her 2 sons had married, and then they too sadly died, and now she was going home with Ruth, one of her daughter-in-laws, who refused to let her travel alone. What a kind girl Ruth was. This is Ruth. She refused to stay behind. And this is Naomi, and she is feeling sad. And when they got to Bethlehem, everyone recognized Naomi. But Naomi was sad and tired and a little ashamed, so she wanted to hide away. She asked Ruth to go and find spare corn in the harvest fields so they could make some bread to eat. Ruth went off to glean. Now, I am sure you know what it means to glean. That Ruth was allowed to follow the men gathering the corn and pick up the ears of corn they left behind. What a miracle! The field that Ruth went to gather in was owned by a relation of Naomi's, who had heard about Ruth's kindness, so he was kind to her and let her glean in his field and collect lots of corn and share lunch with his workers, and he made sure that she was safe and no one hurt her. When Ruth went home, Naomi was amazed at how much corn she had collected, and she told Ruth to keep working in that field as it belonged to Boaz, and he was a relation. So every day Ruth went to work in Boaz's field and to collect the corn, and Naomi watched what was going on, and she realized that Ruth and Boaz were falling in love with each other. So she said to Ruth, "Why don't you talk to Boaz and see if he would like to buy the lands that belong to us because we can't afford to keep them anymore, and if he would like to marry you?" So Boaz knew that there was another man who was a closer relative of theirs, so he went to see him and talked to him, and luckily the other man already had another wife and didn't want to take on a new one, so Boaz was free to go ahead and marry Ruth. The town council agreed. What a happy ending to a sad beginning. Ruth and Boaz got married and had a baby, and the baby was called Obed. And Obed was the father of Jesse, and Jesse was the father of David, who was in the family tree of that other famous baby Jesus. But you know all that already. Ruth's kindness and Boaz's kindness remind us of the kindness of God, who sent his Son on a journey to Bethlehem too. He travelled safely in his mother's womb, and she was on the back of a donkey. He came so that we can all know the kindness of God ourselves. But that's another story.